Guys, and welcome to today's video. We are on the road again. We're collecting another engine, which is the same as the engine that I was putting into my S15 down in Group D. In this video we will go look at that S15, explain why we need a new engine. There's a lot going on, but we'll get into it. So once again, we're in the van. We're on a nice country road in the countryside. Air is lovely out here. With Josh.
We're on the road now.
Look a bit pale, look a bit cold. A bit cold?
I've been cold for about 4 months now. And everyone's noticed.
You need to look like Adrian here. Well dressed, well prepared for the cold. So we're down here with Adrian. Adrian always has pretty awesome cars. So before we get into the whole engine fiasco, we're going to look at some cool stuff that he's got tucked away. So, Adrian, you never fail to impress. Well, we've seen this car before. I don't think we featured it on our channel, but we did come down with Jimmy Oakes to feature this car before. And like, just look at this shot right here. Like, that is a photo ready to happen. Black RX-7, black Corolla, just loveliness. This is, and I've said it many times, Adrian, my favorite AE86 in the world. If I was building one, I can't build one now. See, I can't build one because you built it. So if I was building it, it would just look like this. And then I would just have the same car as Adrian, which would be super awkward. This thing is absolutely beautiful. Adrian, give us a quick rundown of the specs for all the peeps at home.
Yeah, so she's running the 1.6 4-age 20 valve, fully rebuilt. Spent the last about year and a half building it. I'm constantly just changing little bits and pieces, like, but it's just about there now. Apart from, I just have a new back bumper to fit.
So you're gonna change the back bumper. What are these? These are rear lights. Are the red lines? Which yeah. Because they have a red line. Yeah. Clever stuff. Clever stuff.
There's red line and white lines, but obviously the white lines have a white line, so.
And they're not as nice. Yeah. The red lines are really nice. And you're running this on what nabbies?
10-inch watt nabbies, 15 by 10s all around.
Oh, so the same on the front as the back?
Yeah.
Ah, and it gives it like a really aggressive stance, which I like quite a bit. What are these mirrors?
Made by Hiromi in Japan.
They're very they're like a kind of a.
You're gonna say that
like a small Ganondorf, like a small Ganondorf, because the Ganondorf would nearly be too big on this car. Yeah. And it's like these are like little small ones, and then inside we got. It's just so right. Everything is just lovely, and you know what? It's not too much.
No,
it's just enough. Why have we an RX-7 here, Adrian?
This is just in for some work. This car has just recently been imported.
Like, there's not a lot of, or especially black RX-7s. Yeah. This one looks like it has never even seen a brush. No. It's spotless.
It's just 50,000 kilometers on this car.
What?
Yeah, 50,000.
Is there 50k on this car?
Yeah.
He's not lying. 50,000 kilometers on an RX-7. So gnarly steering wheel, a few little bits and pieces. I love the red leather. I think that looks really good. It's so clean. Yeah. Like, usually these are in bits, and this one's absolutely spotless. I absolutely love that. I can't decide if I or Josh want an RX-7 more than each other right now. We might go halves. Oh, she's just mint.
Nice V-mount rod and intercooler.
Still twin turbo.
Still twin turbo, yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. Like, look, there's nothing. Usually these get quite rusty around the turrets and stuff. This one is lovely. It's got the little vent in the light, which I like quite a lot.
Aftermarket front bumper and aftermarket lights and stuff.
It's kind of the newer. What year is the car?
97.
So it's 97, but this is like a kind of a zero. Sort of 001 kind of spec front bumper, which kind of freshens up the front a bit. I like them either way. I'm not like partial to one or the other, but it looks absolutely gorgeous. What's going on with this Starlet? This looks like the most nicest bog standard Starlet I've ever seen.
This is completely original Mark 1 EP82 GT Turbo. This car has just come in from Japan in November last year. When I was 17, I had one just like this, and it was my first fast car to have. I bought it off the buy and sell in Dublin for 2,300.
I feel this was not 2,300.
Definitely not. No.
So this is bog standard. Like, this is how it came. Like, I don't think I've ever seen one on these like standard wheels.
Yeah.
Like standard wheels. Everything is just from the factory. Oh, it's got the jazzy interior.
Yeah.
Look at this. You even have the Starlet mats.
Yeah.
It smells like a new new Japanese car.
Yeah, there's only 121,000 kilometers on it.
Wow. Look, all the speakers, Adrian. Yeah. Look at this. So these are Toyota and Pioneer together.
They're original, optional extra from the factory, I'd imagine.
Can you imagine that you could get this as an option?
It's
Like
a step up from the 6x9s.
Like that's mad. Like as if this is a factory speaker system. That looks hilarious. If you went in and said, "This is an optional extra," and they're just stuck on there.
They're massive, yeah.
Well, this is two sides. You got the completely original car, and then you've got the highly modified car, and you've kind of got one in the middle, which is kind of the RX-7 as a bit both. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're here now. We might as well go in and have a look at what's going on in here. There's going to be stuff in here, Josh.
Ooh, it goes deep.
So this is the drift missile.
This is the bash car, yeah. This is the best car I've ever bought. It's such a good car.
These are as sort of uninteresting as they may be.
Yeah.
For going to a drift track day, there's nothing better than a
Oh,
VQ.
jeez. I've done 4 full days now and just put like 4 tyres and maybe 100 quid worth of fuel in it. They're such a blast to drive. A few simple mods and like, you know, they just have enough.
Well, if you think about the ethos between all these cars, starting off as a cheap, fun, rear-wheel drive, reliable car, this was the king, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But now these are so expensive, especially this one,
They're gone.
that these are sort of like the new twin cam because they're cheap, reliable, and fun, even though they're a more modern chassis. But I think these will be the new collector's item because I'll tell you why. I want to make a point of this. So I want to go back on this video in a couple of years. I'll tell you why. The reason these got so expensive is because they were cheap and fun. Everybody bought them. And there was so much reliability for how much basically abuse you could give them, right? You give loads of abuse and they were. Then nostalgia kicks in because people had so much fun in them in the past, they wanted them again later in life when they can afford it. Everybody now in drifting is having no fun really in those because they're too expensive, and they're having all the fun in these. And what also happens is we destroy them. We destroy them all. So everyone that goes to the track is another one that will never be mint again. So therefore, how many clean, unmolested 350Zs will there be in 5-10 years time? And then they'll start being the collector's item, which I'm just saying, I'm warning you guys, someday we're going to be standing in a shed like this with Adrian with grey beards going, "Jeez, I'm after paying 40 grand for a 350Z, she's only mint." And we'll all sound like Chewbacca going down the road. These GTRs are now, the funny thing about the GTRs, they brought out a new GTR at the Tokyo Auto Salon and it's the same car. So they brought these out in 2009 and it's the same car, basically, bar styling touches and a few little adaptations.
Yeah, it's just...
So that's what, 14 years they've had the same car on the market? So even though you have one of the earlier ones, which is a very nice one, it's not like it's dated. It's not like they've done 3 more. If you had an M3 or an M4 or whatever, every 2 years it changes, or 3 years.
It's got twice as big.
Everything got bigger. This is still the same car. So like, again, maybe a future classic. And this one is a classic and I can't ignore it because this is like the opposite of that, right? So that's the Jap style, or the Japanese style.
This is the UK.
This is the UK style. And this is also very original, right?
It's pretty stock, or some kind of over suspension and a full stainless steel joint speed, and obviously the little 13-inch wheels.
You gotta have the 13-inch wheels to be doing a few donuts in it, like.
Yeah.
This thing is like beautiful. Like it's again, how they made cars to last this long just is beyond me. I mean, a BMW nowadays or an Audi or even a Toyota is not going to last 5-10 years before it looks worn down, but this is beautiful. If you guys know how much these are worth now, Adrian's been saving up a lot of pocket money for a long time, buying and selling cars to be able to afford this stuff, and he works very hard. He works for himself as a mechanic, but put everything you made in the last probably 15 years has gone into all these cars. So,
for sure,
and you've done a lot of the work yourself too, which also saves a lot of time and energy. So thanks for showing us.
Awesome.
We've looked at all the beautiful Toyota stuff. Now we got to go look at something a little less beautiful. Not the first engine to go into the back of the van. They also have 4 engines in 2 weeks, we said? 4 engines. So we had the engine, the NA SR out of the S15. We had this engine, we had your SR20, and we had my new SR20 all in the back of the van. So it's technically a rear engine van most of the time.
We're bringing you with.
You're coming with us to unload it now.
Back in there, I really would. Go work.
Hey, only we're allowed to get out of work professionally. Alright guys, we're back down at Group D to see my S15. Now let's rewind a little bit to remind you about this car. I bought this car from Kevin Quinn about a year ago as a Spec S automatic, and then I decided to wrap it a really sparkly colour for a dub shed show. Not sure why I did that. And it was like a sparkly blue. The guys in Precision Tinted Graphics did it. We brought it to the show, but then I realised the car was so mint underneath that I kind of wanted to restore it. So we've got a lot of the original aero parts for the car. We got some new wheels, some BC coilovers, an exhaust, an intake, lots of other cool stuff. And we put it on the car and we got our boys at 888 Customs to paint the car the original pewter grey that it was. And the car was mint. We revealed the car at the LZ Festival last year and Jimmy Oakes drove it for the whole time. But it was a 4-speed automatic and it was super slow. So we decided we were going to put it's such a good shell, such a good platform, let's put a fast engine in it. Well, we could go SR20 DET, which would be obvious, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I already thought that a rotary would be the way to go. But then Darren from Group D decided he would come up with a crazy plan of putting a 3S GE and a turbo custom setup with a link ECU into the car, and since that point it has spiraled out of control. I haven't seen the car for about 3 months now, and we have another engine for the car in the back, but we'll get to all that story when we get inside. So there is the engine. And we're here in Group D, and you guys have been asking us in the comments to give you an update on the S15. Well, things haven't been as straightforward as we would have liked, Darren. Oh, so we'll get to it now. First of all, I want to remind you what the car looks like. Well, it's kind of half taken apart, but you get the idea. You know, you gotta
minus some stuff.
You gotta go 2 steps backwards to go 4 steps forward, and then take 3 steps back before you get 8 steps ahead. That's kind of the way this car has been. I can't even take the cover off it. This sums up the whole build, actually.
You know what, just drop it down there. It's fine. There we go.
So, yeah, so this is the car. And it was finished and driving and on the road. And then, of course, what all car guys do is go, why would I want to drive around in it? I want to rip it all apart and do something crazy with it. And that's when Darren came in and we decided to do a 3S GE. So, she is...
Sorry, I think Darren more persuaded you.
Darren did persuade me to do this engine. I'm going to put that on record, and he's still very confident about it. But we have had some setbacks, Darren.
Darren is sorry he opens his mouth sometimes.
Darren had an idea, and now he's got to live with the consequences of that idea.
I hope it's going to be an improvement from this.
We've got a lot of parts lined up. We thought this would be quicker, Darren, but the old world of parts is a slow world. The car hasn't had a huge amount done because we've been waiting on a lot of stuff, but we'll start with the elephant in the room of why we were picking up an engine from Adrian today, because the engine we had turned out to be no good.
Yeah, we have a slight issue. This is the engine we were using for you. So once we got it open, because we need to change the head gasket in it to drop the compression for turbocharging, then we have a little bit of water damage on number 1 cylinder. It's no big deal. It would probably hone out and you could put new rings in, but we're adding extra cost to something that we're already kind of like, you know, we want these engines just to kind of go in without that much effort. So we didn't plan on machining the bores or anything and putting bigger pistons in.
And the funny thing about this engine is, as opposed to most, is that it's actually cheaper to just try again with another engine than to actually do all the machine work, because the engines are relatively like €500 to €300 kind of thing. The only problem that we've discovered is that because they're not a very valuable engine, which is like yay, means that people don't take very good care of them. Boo, which means they've sat for a long time, and that's probably what happened. This engine, it was sat, it was out maybe in the rain or whatever, and it got left and abandoned. So that's why we had to get another engine from Adrian, who happened to have one, and that's what's going to be replacing this. To let everyone know, let's talk about what's been done on the car so far, because obviously we haven't updated anyone. So there's been some stuff done on the car. The engine's come out, the automatic gearbox is out.
Yeah, it's been converted to manual. You now have room for a clutch master cylinder. Your pedals are done. Weren't as straightforward, easy as I thought, because none of the automatic setup can be used, not even the brake pedal coming down. I had to go to a full kind of manual, but whatever, it's done. So, yeah, as usual.
It'll just slot right in there. This is what, you know what the internet doesn't like? They don't like the reality of all of these conversions are a pain. So, look at that. There it is. 3 pedals in the car.
Just no gearbox.
At the moment.
No gearbox.
So no gearbox, but the gearbox was in.
Engine and box was in, mounts are finished. So it'll just pop straight back in when that time
So
comes.
you've kind of done the research work of will it fit in the car?
Yeah, it goes in, no modification to the 3S sump, which is ideal. That was going to be another stumbling block, that was going to be a big deal. that if you had to modify every sump to do this, it would be a pain in the hole.
So hold on a minute. So the Altezza gearbox, just because I'm sure people are asking the question, that's a 6-speed.
That's your gearbox.
This is the gearbox here.
Yeah.
So hold on, does this bolt straight onto that engine
Yes.
without an adapter plate?
Correct, because it's a 3S block. It's the same block in a Beams Altezza as it is in the old Celica. It's
No
all
way.
the same block for 20 or 30 years.
Did you know that?
Josh doesn't know anything. Oh, you're asking
I still don't know what car the engine came out
I was
of.
asking the camera. Certainly wasn't asking Josh. He doesn't even know what's in an Altezza. So the engine from the old MR2, which is what this is, the MR2 non-turbo,
Yes.
is the same block as the engine that's in a Yamaha Beams Altezza.
Exactly. 100% same. This bit of the theory has worked. when we sat down in Mondello and we made this build, I was like, well, this should fit it, that should, well, it fitted.
So the engine fits in the car without modifying the oil pan.
Yes.
The Altezza gearbox fits straight onto the engine. So technically the engine and gearbox fit in the car and everything was looking great.
This is
Now the music turns, like it all goes dark grey. And then the engine, there's no point in trying to build, we're trying to keep this cheap and reliable. 300 horsepower is kind of what we're looking for.
We had them apart, actually, sorry to interrupt, but we had them apart, and just like every old Toyota, like the one you said, like the 2J, the rods are massive. The rod balls are massive. This thing will take boost. Like everything is over-engineered back in the day, and then at a certain point Toyota decided to make everything lightweight, and then that's why everyone looks for a thick rod engine over a thin rod engine. The early ones are strong.
So to make this take boost,
Yeah,
which you think it will, you have to have other bits.
you do.
So this is a head of this engine apart.
Yep, that's your head.
This is my head, but this is also my head.
This is smarter. This one.
This is more functional than my head. This bit's not an old standard component. So
No.
this is the new intake.
Yep, so like all the old Toyotas, people might be familiar with them. They have kind of double intakes, they split in the middle. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be great now if it split in the middle and we could do a middle plenum and it would be so easy. Well, that didn't happen. So that was one thing that didn't go our way. We couldn't make the configuration work because this engine is kind of on its side in the MR2 and Celica.
It's sort of leaning forward almost, isn't
Yeah,
it?
an awful lot, yeah. And then we've obviously straightened it up a lot, not totally level, because the engine being on its side, it only has oil returns on one side of the block, which you won't have on a level engine. So we still have a couple of degrees of angle in so that the oil drains to one side of the block. All that has to be thought about. But it just became this being the best option. So that is brand new, the only one that exists for your car. It is right now useless because it has no hole for throttle body in it.
I was about to say, I'm not sure where the air is coming to this. I'm not an expert, but
There's
I'm
enough air in there to start it.
yeah, there's just enough for the one start, and then it's a vacuum and everything. Yeah.
So we will do the throttle body once it's in, because I want to clock the throttle body level, and the plenum isn't level and the engine isn't level, so I'm going to clock all that level so it all looks correct when it's in. And of course your throttle cable has to be, it can't be looking upside down or inside out or whatever.
You don't like that.
So that needs to be done once we've it all in.
We're not trying to break power records with this car. What I want it to be is a nice car that has an unusual engine that makes roughly the same power as an SR20 Spec or with a couple of mods on, or a bit more than that.
Yeah.
And you'd kind of never know about the sound. That we wanted it to kind of be a bit of a sleeper conversion. It wasn't like we're shouting from the rooftops here, making 500-600 horsepower. I want it to be a daily car, something you can turn the key, it starts, it's reliable, all that.
300 horsepower we're going to put it to. Exactly.
That's what I'm
That's what we're going to put it on the dyno when it's done, and we're going to leave you live with it the whole time. And at that, I'm fairly confident, and I'm hoping you will just motor on for as long as you want until you want to turn it up, which everybody will eventually want to turn
That's
up.
what I would like that. Not a lot of that going on the channel at the moment, so we're hoping that will be the case. So we've got a nice clutch.
That's your clutch now. Again, we have...
This is again, you're going to see a lot of escalation of where this project started and what happened along the way, because we could have put a cheaper clutch in the car, but because it was 300 horsepower, it's almost right on the borderline between cheap clutch and proper clutch. And I could have gone cheap clutch and it might have slipped after a while,
We have a slight issue. We've gone Altezza because we have an Altezza box. Now it's very probable that a Celica clutch will work, a GT4 clutch, and then the cost of the clutch comes way down because they have a clamping force for a turbo engine, whereas an Altezza doesn't have the clamping force for the amount of torque that we're going to make with a turbo. But the Altezza has a dual mass flywheel, which is really thick, and we need a really thick flywheel just to be sure.
extreme.
Extreme.
We
no,
went
pretty extreme.
pretty
It's just
extreme.
Expensive.
And then we've got this oil pan. We're not modifying this. This is just nice.
No, it fits straight in. The steering rack is right here, but I decided to get you a new one because they're so cheap and saves me having to paint one. I can't replicate that.
That's lovely.
So that's
Very clean. I like that.
See where the build went.
This is my favourite part.
There's going to be a theme here of, yeah, anyway, we'll
New
continue.
head studs, which is really simple. You have to change them every time you take them out. This is your special head gasket that came, which, if you can zoom in, Josh, is extremely thick. So it has like
like Josh himself.
it's not as thick as you. It's got a decompression plate in it, as we call it. So that is where you get.
So this essentially goes on to, I mean, I'm a Lego.
Here we
builder.
go, Dave.
Here we go.
That's going on there, right? I'm not going to dirty it.
You got it right first time.
So that's you know, for the layman like me, I wasn't too familiar with turbocharging a non-turbo engine. Yeah. So basically, this is to lower the compression. So that's
a good rule of thumb is any engine will be 10-to-1 compression ratio, and a turbo engine will be 8.5. So that's exactly what this does. This is 10-to-1, and we're dropping it to 8.5 for boost. That's why most people understand if you put a turbo kit onto a normally aspirated car, you can only run like 0.5 bar, 6 pounds of boost or something. You can't turn it up. That's because of the compression ratio. That fixes this problem, and we'll be able to run 1 bar of boost. Sweet. Here's an oil pump. These are genuine quality replacement. So the Toyota is ground off it, and if you bought it from Toyota would be left on it. That's how these
very slick. Very slick.
That's how the aftermarket world works. They're all made in the same place. And you wanted sexy as usual, flash and everything. So you've got a racing
Blue belt.
Yeah, Gates
Blue
racing.
belt. Look at that.
Matches his complexion.
People will be like, "Geez, that blue belt really just makes the whole thing." That's what they'll say. We started off, we were going to do an unopened engine, and then I said, well, look, we're now on the second engine because we didn't even start this one. So I think it is probably a one-stop, get it just maintenance. It's a maintenance job, really. It's not like we're rebuilding it all from scratch. It's just...
This is so cheap. Like, I mean, besides the clutch, okay.
Clutch, not so much.
No, because, well, like you had to...
A clutch is a clutch.
Yeah, but it's the flywheel.
Yeah.
Everything else is really, really affordable. Like, it's really cheap.
And do we have any other fancy parts here that we can look at?
We do, that I forgot to bring down to the table, but I will bring it down now. We're back.
I don't know why we hire you. He can do all the transitions. All the transitions from our videos should now just be Darren going. Swipe
Yeah, cut me in. I get like a tenner in the post every time I have
You get royalties every time you do a transition. This is the bit where, and this is definitely where it escalated because there was so many options.
Darren's doing that now.
This was a phone call that I didn't expect.
This went out of hand.
This went out of hand. So Darren said he found...
It didn't though.
It did. He basically found what he describes as the world's best turbo.
This is class now. Wait till you see it. It's class.
Right, show me. I've paid for it, so I don't even know what it is.
Hang on a second, wait, can we just do a price
Don't you
comparison?
pay for it yet.
I didn't pay for it yet. So
Can we do a price comparison
Still mine.
from what the normal turbo would have been to what this is?
That'll be for another episode, I think.
Basically, I'm going to explain this in layman's terms, is that if I'm right in saying this is internally wastegated, which I don't even know what that means, which means he didn't have to do a load of fabrication to make an external wastegate and get a wastegate and all other stuff, which would have cost the same. So the turbo is more expensive, but it cuts me the cost of all the rest of stuff. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What is this?
And cost a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money.
But look at it.
It looks like a normal turbo, Darren.
No, it doesn't. What's going on over
Josh,
here?
look at all this. Look at this. It's all stainless steel and machine. Look in there. Look at the wastegate port at an angle. The size of the wastegate port. This is the cutting edge of turbo technology. Like this is, it's a G25 550 internal gate 0.49 housing. So this was impossible to get. We could not get one. We found
Clearly not, Darren. It's just there on the
well,
table.
you know how long we've been trying to
Yeah,
get.
I also have been involved for this too.
Yeah. So
Waiting for
one.
waiting for a turbo that I didn't understand, that was very expensive for a long time. Darren, my
Just told
my life is in your hands.
told the price after we got it.
He did actually tell me the price afterwards, and I nearly fell off the chair. But it does look very impressive. And what's so cutting edge about it? What's different about it than say just a regular turbo you'd bolt onto the car?
Well, this is a clean sheet design. So when normally for the last 40 years, turbos have been kind of commercial applications, and then they put like a billet wheel in them and call it a racing one. We were always using truck turbos, and that's just the way it's been. 35 frame, 30 frame, 40 frame. You'll be familiar with all those numbers, 3582, 3071. Then this is from a clean sheet. Everything how you would design it if you wanted a perfect turbocharger, and this is what they've come up with.
So this is not repurposing something. This is something purpose built for this type of thing.
You can see, like, even the back of it is going to look different to any turbo you have ever seen, basically. So it's got things like, you know, water feeds to each side. So you have one high, one low, so you get thermal siphoning better. Everything has been thought of. It's got a V-bend center, so you can clock it and just tighten the V-bend instead of a big ring of bolts and putting in a big ring of bolts. The whole thing has just been designed for motorsport, basically. Speed sensor built in. It basically is a 25-550, so it's a 25 frame, which would be like a standard S13 turbo, would be a T25, you'll be familiar with that. But it'll make 550 horsepower off of a tiny turbo. So basically, this is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo. You don't need any other turbo, basically. You're not going to make more than 550.
So basically you're using a smaller turbo to get more power because it's more efficient than...
It's way more efficient,
lag.
It flows way more air and way less lag. So your power band has just exploded and your peak horsepower is still whatever you want it to be.
The best thing I love about this is that we're putting the first 3S GE plus T. So remember, there has been 3S GTEs put into cars before, but never a 3S GE plus T because we're converting it to turbo. With the first application of a turbo, definitely in Ireland, I would imagine, and maybe in...
But we've never been able to get one of these.
So maybe in Europe, the first one of those setups. This is also custom and brand new and never been done before. So there's a lot of stuff on this car which, even though it's getting a little out of hand, I'm excited about because it's unknown. So basically, all of this stuff is going into the car and we are putting a full Link ECU setup. So obviously you guys know Link ECU are partners of us and we're going to use a very nice setup. So the idea is that it's going to run the Link Street Dash. It has indicator and all the fuel lights and stuff, which is all the stuff you need for a road car. And then we're going to get a 3D printed bezel,
which we have gotten made in Australia, actually. And
see how this is escalated out of control, people? So we're getting a bezel.
It's not that expensive, but it's been sent to Ireland. It's second time now on the way to Ireland. Customs didn't like it the first time, sent it back to Australia.
They never do.
It's done a fair bit of travelling, this bezel.
Expensive now.
Expensive now. It's done a lot of mileage. So it's basically going to replace the standard clocks in the car with a perfect cutout for the Link ECU Street Dash, so it looks factory in the car. So even though it's got... So basically the S15 gets a modern sort of digital display in the car. And obviously...
GPS.
Yeah,
speed and
it's going to have all that stuff in it, and then obviously we're going to go and do different wheels, and we're going to do lots of other stuff and bits and bobs. And yeah, and Darren is basically saying at that point it is out of my hair. But we're going to do a lot of funky stuff with it. We're going to keep an eye on this. Obviously, Darren has wanted to do this faster, but the delay on the engine, delay on parts. At the moment, parts are scarce on the ground, so trying to get everything, especially unusual stuff that you would never keep in stock, trying to get it all ordered in, and it is a very unusual build. But I'm very excited about it because it's going to be a very unique S15. Obviously, usually with me and Darren, it escalates out of control, but I think we're doing it in a sensible way to make the car not just run, you know, not just run 600 horsepower for 2 weeks and then blow up. This is going to be like a car that I want to run for years. I want to keep the car. It's a very clean shell. I really, really like the car. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. We got go back to the shed. We got projects coming. The SR 2.2 is going in the S14. A lot of work to be done on that car as well. And new engine in Josh's MX-5. 2 new engines in Josh's MX-5. It's getting out of control. Anyway, join us on the next episode. We'll get you right back up to date again. The S15, we'll check in with Darren in a couple of weeks and see the progress.